Welcome into a sleepy episode of Why Wait Till Sunday. After recovering from springing our clocks forward over the weekend, we lost an hour, and now we're going to be talking about some sleeper picks or potential breakout studs in the 2021 college football season. So in an ongoing C2C, a lot of these guys may be rostered, but could be acquired for relatively decent offer or reasonably low offer. And in a C2C startup, these are going to be later round picks that are going to pop in 2021 and return a ton of value by this time next year. So we're going to go over my top 10 breakout sophomores for the 2021 season. And we will share the screen here because if you are listening to this on a podcast, thank you so much for being involved. But you can watch this on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and see some clips from these characters, as I'm talking about them. But without further ado, number 10 on my list is Bo Allen. He is a rising redshirt freshman quarterback at the University of Kentucky. And this is some of his high school tape here. You can see he's got a really nice touch on his deep ball. Was working in a kind of a spread offense, often 4 and 5 wide, really having to use the whole field to his advantage. And that's the kind of offense we saw him at Kentucky or in high school in the state of Kentucky that saw him throw for almost 12,000 yards in his career. And I think 127 touchdown passes, was a 4-year starter, and challenged some of Tim Couch's records in the state of Kentucky for high school football. He's about 6'2", 207, so that's just fine size. He can attack the whole field, in my opinion, and I think that, Kentucky's got a new OC this year. It's Liam Cohen, and he's coming in from the Los Angeles Rams and probably going to implement a little bit more of a pro style, possibly, spread passing attack that he has been running in the NFL. And the only two quarterbacks really Kentucky has to speak of on their roster are this guy, Bo Allen, and then Joey Gatewood, who's much more of a, almost even a poor man's Tim Tebow. I don't think he's very good. Unfortunately, he was kind of an exciting recruit back in the day. But after spending 2 or 3 years at Auburn and not being able to get on the field in front of Bo Nix or Malik Willis, he transferred to Kentucky and then even got some playing time last year and just looked pretty bad. But as you can see here, Bo Allen can even move. I mean, I don't think he's going to, you're not going to mistake him for some kind of true running threat. But he's athletic. He can move around. There's multiple, clips of him throwing or running a long 50-yard gain. But the biggest thing is I really think he can challenge all portions of the field. He's going to start in all likelihood from some of the things I've read. And just it makes sense with the new OC. I don't think Joey Gatewood's got it. And I definitely don't think he's got it if they want him to throw actual passes rather than, run QB power and then, make a couple easy reads. And I think Bo Allen's, got some good pocket presence and a bit of a long motion, but maybe he's tweaked that up a little bit. And like I said, sneaky athletic ability. He did have a UGA offer before, signing with Kentucky. So I think he's a breakout candidate. Certainly going to be, well, not certainly, but I think he's going to be a starter for Kentucky. So at the very least, you get a super duper late 30th round plus starting quarterback. And, if he pops the way like he can, I think, you could have a real asset on your hands. Also, Alan True from 247, friend of the show. I was DMing him. He wrote the blurb right up for Bo Allen on 24/7 Sports. And he liked him quite a bit. The comp was actually Colt McCoy, which, if you're picking a guy that late in a C2C startup or, honestly, even off waivers in most leagues, I would imagine, you can't beat that. I mean, you get a guy who's even going to start 2 or 3 years at the college level and even have an NFL career like Colt McCoy, which is, premium backup for 10 years. That's a great pick at that point in any draft or to pick up off waivers. So if that's even his remote possible outcome, he's a super pickup. And, if he exceeds that ceiling, then you got a really nice asset on your hands. So next on the list, number 9 is going to be Mookie Cooper. He's 5'10", 185, originally committed to Ohio State in that absolutely phenomenal recruiting class for receivers they signed last year, where they had about 4 or 5 in the top 15 receivers in the country. His calling card is going to be just pure speed, and already at Missouri, he's there for spring practice, and they're already talking about just how dynamic he is with the ball in his hands. They want to get the ball in his hands, already using him reportedly on jet sweeps and just getting him the ball in any way, shape, or form. So with their depth chart and not really a leading receiver on his way back from last year, they need a playmaker. And Cooper is going to come in and probably be their playmaker on offense. On an offense that can put up some points. And Connor Balzic is probably a pretty good quarterback. He actually had some nice numbers under the hood last year. 67% completion, which really isn't that bad. He was a redshirt freshman last year, so he's still young. And he may be an up-and-coming quarterback in the SEC. And so he's got a legitimate quarterback throwing in the ball. He's probably going to be the feature of this offense in the SEC. And if he can pop a little bit, again, you're talking about assets in the next year. And I think he could be a really nice riser in terms of value and put himself on the map after next year. If he leads Missouri in receiving and looks pretty good, breaks off some big plays, there you go. Next is going to be Troy O'Meara. He's from or signed with Texas. He is a big receiver, 6'3", 230 pounds listed. And there you go, high pointing the ball and grabbing it up over 2 defenders, man among boys. This is high school tape. He is redshirted last year, so this is a couple years ago. But you can see he's just kind of dominating these younger, smaller corners. He played Texas high school football, so anyone in Texas high school football is pretty decent. And here's a longer play for him where he's outrunning the secondary. And he's listed as he only has a 200-meter time from his track days in high school. And he does have a 22 about second 200-meter documented, which would come out to roughly an 11-second 100-meter, which again converted into a time that we're all familiar with, the 40 time. It's somewhere south of 4.740, so somewhere in the 4.6s. And if you're telling me the guy's 230 pounds running a 4.6, I will take that, as a project, as an incredibly late round pick in your C2C startup drafts. He may be a free agent on the waiver wire in some leagues, and probably can get him as a throw-in almost any trade. But, Texas lost 2 of their top receivers last year in Eagles and, Tarek Black graduated, but he didn't do too much. But they lost Eagles, and they don't really have a stud receiver coming back last year or next year. In my opinion, they're going to be able to have targets available, and they're going to be breaking a new quarterback. So who knows, was Hudson Card throwing to this guy on the practice squad last year? And so there could be some chemistry, but you can see here, he's pretty dynamic, and he's a humongous receiver, really a smallish tight end, but listed as a wide receiver. And he could end up being the number 1 target in the Texas offense this year. If nothing else, it looks like right away this guy's a red zone threat, could challenge for double-digit touchdowns in the Big 12. We know Texas is going to have to throw the ball an absolute ton. Their defense was atrocious last year, and they brought in Sarkisian, who is an offensive mastermind. So I really don't know what they're going to be doing on the offense or the defensive side of the ball, but they're going to have to score a lot of points. He's a very deep sleeper, but size and a pretty good amount of speed paired with some good hands and that aggressive leaping ability to get jump balls in the end zone. Certainly worth putting him on your bench as a guy who could kind of explode. And a lot of people are going to say that's out of nowhere. Hat tip to Felix Sharp at the Sharp Review is his Twitter name. He is a colleague of mine at campustocanton.com. And absolutely He was first on the scene with Omir, but I had to include him in this breakout article or breakout podcast. Haynes King is next. He's also staying in the state of Texas. We've got him at Texas A&M, also going to be a redshirt freshman. And he came in as a pretty highly touted 4-star recruit last year. Obviously didn't play much behind Kellen Mond. We are going to get some Texas A&M film here at the end of this reel because he did play some. He got some time. And you can see right here, I mean, his throwing motion's a little bit funky. I don't love it, that's for sure. But he's athletic. He can move around. There's plenty of instances him, rolling out of the pocket, making some plays with his legs. He looks pretty fluid when he is getting down the field. So I think he's athletic. I think there's some rushing upside with him. You can see here on like a kind of a read option, he takes it and kind of easily pulling away from safeties. I think he actually has a 100-meter time or did some track in his day. So he's a pretty interesting prospect and almost for sure, I think, going to start for Texas A&M. So again, he may be rostered. Startups that started last year, I would imagine, they would have taken this guy as a speculative pickup. So he might be rostered. I bet you could pick him up pretty easily in a trade. If you're in a startup, going to be a very late keeper. And then here are some images of him at Texas A&M last year. He didn't necessarily light it up here in mop-up duty with 5 minutes left against Alabama. Again, you can see that throwing motion. I mean, it's a little bit odd. Kind of looks a little Phillip Riversy. But you'll see here at the very end, he breaks off a nice little run. And so I'm interested in this guy. I think there's some upside. Maybe he develops a little bit as a passer and that motion. He can get away with it at the college level at the very least and really show us something next year. Here's him taking a keeper. And he also has another longer run on the way here. I think this is it. But he's a little awkward, but I think you're not spending a premium pick and getting a starting quarterback in an SEC school who could maybe pop for you is definitely worth a play later in your drafts or almost as a throw-in. Next on the list is going to be Kimani Vidal. He's at Troy, and I've got a couple clips against Coastal Carolina, who's a pretty good defense. You can see him weaving through traffic right there. He's a very interesting player, 5'8", 214 or 15 pounds. So pretty stocky, classically short, but not small kind of guy. He played at Marietta High School with Harrison Bailey and Eric Gilbert as a senior. And then they all went to different colleges, but you can see here a nice reception out of the backfield. And that to me is why he's intriguing. So he basically won the starting job down the stretch for Troy as a true freshman. Look at that little move there in the open field. And then he's got some power to gain some extra yardage and things like that after the play. That's all I've got for Vidal. But just to give you a couple other things, 3 of the last 4 games, he had greater than 19 touches, one of which he had almost like 26, 27 touches. He had 20 receptions in his last 4 games, and one of those games was 0 receptions. So he had like 7, 5, and 8 in 3 of his last 4 games, showing tremendous PPR receiving upside. I watched a little more. I kept these clips, but I did watch a little more, and he's got a little wiggle. Probably does not have true long speed, but it's not that bad. He was actually clocked at 11.2 in the 100-meter, which is somewhere right around 4.740. Maybe he improves on that a little bit, gets into the 4.6s, maybe shaves off a whole tenth and gets, right at 4.6 or even in the high 4.5s eventually. And then you're talking about a real NFL prospect at 5'8". If he can, if he stays up at 215, shows receiving ability and puts up big numbers from his freshman year, and then has at least a threshold beating, speed time. You could be looking at a guy who does have NFL potential. He looked really pretty interesting for Troy last year. Again, true sophomore that earns 20 plus carries towards the end of the season or 20 plus touches is absolutely going to get my attention just on the fact that it's true freshman basically breaking out in a backfield. I don't care what university, you're at. He's going to need to keep doing it, of course. But again, at the college level, I think we can expect him to really continue to be good. And then, there is a glimmer of NFL future here, I think. I think FSU had a running back transfer to Troy, LaDamian Webb, I believe it is. And he may be used as a change of pace or something like that. But I think Vidal has a complete back skill set. He's big enough and thick enough to carry the load. And I'm not sure where Webb is going to fit in, but I think it's still Vidal based on what he showed us last year. So again, you're not having to spend a very big pick on this guy. Kind of a low risk proposition with, I think, a pretty nice upside reward. And next we have, we're going to see him get in the end zone here. I guess there was one more clip, and power through, little short yardage, 1 yard, but finishing the drive, which you love to see. He can receive. He can use it in short yardage as a bowling ball. He does have a 3-down skill set, and pretty interesting young player. Next we have Jalen Hyatt. He is from Tennessee, originally from South Carolina at Dutch Fork, which is a major, major program, son of a coach. And you can see here just absolute mind-numbing speed. He's just so fast, legitimately clocked, I believe, like 10.4 or something in the 100 meter, and then also clocked at the Nike opening with a 4.31. That's right, 4.31 40-yard dash at the opening, which is a legitimate camp, which has numbers you can trust. So he's almost looking at 4.240. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. He's very slight. He's 6 feet, 175. But if he could get to even 185, heck, even 180, if he's going to show us 4.2 speed. But you can see right there, that's a nice over-the-shoulder hands grab. He does have multiple instances of catching the ball with hands. He's not only speed, like right there, he could have let that ball come into his body, but he caught it out front with his hands. Really like to see that from him. But, the calling card here that sets him apart from truly any other player in the country is that long speed. And he's got it, truly more than anyone else in the country, maybe. I mean, 4.140 in high school at the Nike opening. That's just ridiculous. I think he's one of my favorite actually blow up candidates next year. Nice over the shoulder grab. I mean, and this is against Alabama this past year. He beats, I think number 9 is a safety. So it was a safety. He's running out of the slot, but he just runs past him. The safety kind of had no idea what he was doing. This is not garbage time. It's 21-10 after this play in the second quarter. This is not garbage time. This is not second team defense. This is still first team defense. He's in the slot and he kind of just goes. This corner's kind of flat footed. He does spin, turn his hips, and he just can't even get close. So that's Jalen Hyatt. But I think with the Tennessee quarterback situation being a little bit uncertain, he fell down my list just because I don't know if we can guarantee what those raw stats are going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be Bailey or who at Tennessee, but, I think he's got a decent chance to break out with Heupel coming in. He does a very explosive, long bomb offense that Hyatt seems to be fit really perfectly for. I would not be surprised if he just breaks out completely, even 1,000 yards potentially in that offense. I mean, Heupel's just going to chuck the ball around the field. So, and I think their defense stinks. If the quarterback play is truly abominable, it may be tough going, but I think he's a very intriguing player. And anybody with that speed, I mean, it really doesn't matter. If you pick him up now, by the time it's NFL time, but even if he stays to be a senior, even if he stays to be a fifth-year senior and goes to the Senior Bowl, you saw what happened with Dwayne Eskridge. I mean, this guy is going to eventually be an NFL prospect with this speed, barring injury. He is going to get a look. You're getting a guy very, very late that I think for sure has NFL potential. This next on my list is going to be LV Bunkley Shelton. Now, this is high school tape for him because Arizona State, for his true freshman year, had COVID problems. They only played 4 games. They didn't really even do hardly anything at all. It was just an absolute mess. There you see him as a safety picking off, and must have been to win the game because he's not even running it back. But yeah, he's a pretty interesting guy at 5'11", 190, so kind of stocky. That was his freshman weight. If he gets up over 200 at 5'11", you like that. That's kind of that tank, running back with the ball in his hand kind of guy, potentially. That's a really nice catch there, kind of a one-handed over the back. And then already in spring camp, there's been a clip of him catching a ridiculous one-handed catch from Jaden Daniels in their spring practice as he winds up for his sophomore year. So this is a little bit of the Treylon Burks strategy. I called Treylon Burks breakout prior to 2020 because I saw a guy on Arkansas in the SEC. Well, that was a pretty nice little route right there. Look at this. We'll have to wait a second. But yeah, going back to the Treylon Burks. So I saw a guy who put up 400 and something yards in 2019 as a true freshman, but that was like 20% of the team's receiving production. He did not get in the end zone, but I was like, this guy led the team in receiving as a true freshman. This is the route right here. Kind of breaks in, back out, loses his man, and he is easily in the end zone there. That's kind of nice, showing some nuance there. But anyway, back to that. So why is it relevant for LV Bunkley Shelton? He led Arizona State in receiving receptions with 11 in their 4 games. Like I said, it was a messy season. It was an ugly offensive season for them. Jaden Daniels didn't really seem to play very well, didn't really pop, but he led the team with 11 receptions in 4 games. It's not an impressive number by any stretch of the imagination, except for the fact it means he was on the field from day one. He was getting targets, and a true freshman, I really don't care what the raw numbers are. If a true freshman is leading a team in receptions as an 18-year-old, we've got to pay attention. In this case, he is way, way under the radar. I mean, he's still not being taken any higher than, I'm basically snagging him. We're doing these mocks right now for Campus to Canton, and I'm snagging him, 15th round, which is kind of we're only doing about 15 rounds. I bet he could be taken even later than that. He's just not on anyone's radar because he had 11 catches for 100 yards as a true freshman. But if you realize that nobody else on the team had more than that, that's certainly something. And I paused it right here. This is one play I was able to find. There's no highlights from their season last year, really, but this was one nice play. So he's running out here in this little, he's found his, either beat his man, found a little spot in the zone. He's going to do a nice toe trap grab on the sideline there. And that was ruled a catch for first down. So pretty nice little play right there. And I really like LV Bunkley Shelton to break out, and people are going to say, well, he came out of nowhere, but like Treylon Burks before him, you look at a guy who commanded it doesn't matter what the raw number is, but commanded the most targets on a team. You've got to pay attention. And so with a good offseason, maybe Jaden Daniels hopefully takes a step forward, and LV is their leading receiver as a true sophomore in 2021. He's going to be on a lot of radars, and he is not hardly at all right now, except I know my good friend Austin from at Devi Dietz has kind of been a big fan of Bunkley Shelton for a while now. Next, we have Kevon Lee. He is a running back out of the state of Florida, but signed and played for Penn State last year. He is an absolute hoss. This is a 6 foot, 230-pound running back. And runs like it. He is an absolute load to bring down. He's fast enough, pretty good burst, and a good receiver. And, through attrition last year for Penn State backfield, he definitely had some big games, a couple 100-yard games, and looked like the lead runner when called upon. And I think he's going to enter 2021 as the lead back. I don't think Devin Ford has done much enough to really warrant consideration for that. And I think Keziah Holmes is an interesting guy, but more of a change of pace. But Lee at 230 pounds, Penn State wants to run the football, and they have a history of running backs, and they know how to get the most out of these guys athletically. As you can see, Penn State is always dominating the combine. So I will say, at 230 pounds, he doesn't have like the most impressive kind of long speed, but he's nimble. You saw that little juke right there. And he's just, look at the thighs on this guy. I mean, he's huge. He's absolutely huge. dragging guys. He's got pretty good burst through the hole, and I know he can receive. That was definitely part of his scouting report coming even out of high school, that he had soft hands and could make it as a receiver. So look at those thighs. My gosh, this guy's huge. But I think, heading into this year, he's still a pretty, easy acquire in startups. And then I think you could probably get him off someone in a trade, not as a throw in. I mean, if anyone's even, kind of paying attention, they know he's probably going to enter as the lead back for a Power 5 Big Ten team running back next year. So that's certainly worth something. But I think the point is you're going to see his value go up even more after this next year. And I like Kevon Lee. He is my number 3 breakout potential as a sophomore next year. I think he only had like 400 yards this year, so he's still flying under some radars, I think. And, he's definitely interesting, but not considered, one of the elite backs. The 2023 class has about 5 running backs that people are already salivating over for their NFL potential. I think Lee, given his size and burst, has NFL potential for sure. But you can see there, he doesn't look like super comfortable just like running away from defenders, but that's a nice little reception. And at 230 pounds, anything you can get in the receiving game and any burst you can get is really nice. Tackle breaker for sure. He is an absolute load to bring down. But yeah, I don't think he has, 4 maybe in the 4.5s type speed. We'll see. But Penn State absolutely gets the most out of their guys athletically, and I think he can improve on some of that speed throughout his college career. Next, we're going to look at Jalen McMillan. These, again, are his high school stats because I think he only had about 2 catches last year in the shortened Pac-12 season for Washington. He's a burner. He's 6'1", 185, I think, listed. He has a 10.6 record 100-meter in the 40, in the 10.6 100-meter, which comes out to almost a 4.4 or so in a 40-yard dash. So he's got legitimate, Power 5 breakaway speed. And you can see here, he looked really nice in high school. And that was a little nice stutter step at the line, breaking free and beating really 3 guys in different spots on the field there. Again, little chop step there, opens the hips and gets open. A nice catch that was behind him. But my buddy Colin, again, I've stolen some of these players, at least, they were put on my radar by the guys I'm working with at Campus to Canton. But Colin really, really likes McMillan. I mean, he's taken him in these startups, I think, in the top 10 rounds, which is a little bit rich for my blood, but he was a very highly rated recruit, a strong 4-star, and went to Washington. He might have even been a top 10 receiver on 247. That was a nice move. Yeah, that was a real nice move. It's not only long speed. Look at that right there. This is play down near the goal line. He's isolated out on the outside, one-on-one with the corner. And you can see here a little juke step and then create some space, over the shoulder grab at a tough angle, honestly. So that's a really nice play. Sometimes these speedsters in high school are just long speed, but he's showing a little bit of nuance and kind of savvy in the short area. That's really what I look for in these high school films. I know these guys can run long, especially if they get out one-on-one or in the open field, but can they create, small increments of separation at the short field? And that looks good there. That was a little nice, release. Granted, these are high school DBs, but he's showing some movement skills down near the line of scrimmage and in short area that I think would really show up nice at the college level. So he's for Washington. They don't really have anything going on at wide receiver. Puka Nakwa is transferring to BYU. So he would have probably been the most exciting guy coming back other than McMillan. So now it really might just be McMillan in 2021. So again, he'll be a true sophomore. If he pops, now we're looking at a true sophomore breakout. So that's why sophomores under the radar that can break out, they will meet your, breakout age requirements for the dynasty people. He will then produce for your college side on your Campus to Canton teams. And you've got an asset. If these guys break out as true sophomores, you have an asset that everybody will be salivating over, from Campus to Canton to Devi to Dynasty. And that's why we're really interested in sophomore breakouts that are going under the radar right now. And Jalen McMillan is my number 2 sophomore breakout coming into 2021. But as you can see here, it's not all long bombs. I mean, he's got some, creative route running, I think, going on here. And certainly does have that long speed once the open field is offered to him. All right, here we go. My number one breakout candidate is DeMarcus Bowman, who now plays at Florida. This is the second transfer on the list. And maybe it's a bit of a homer pick. You can see my Danny Warfel jersey back here. But I really think wherever he went, even if it stayed at Clemson, he'd be my pick. But if it stayed at Clemson, I don't think he'd be discounted. He's currently going in the third or fourth round of C2C startups, at least via the mock drafts that we're running at Campus to Canton. This guy, putting this together, I've kind of realized he reminds me a lot of everyone's, lovey-dovey this year, Trevion Henderson, who's a great looking prospect going to Ohio State at the running back position. But coming out of high school, their size is about the same. They look similar in the open field. I mean, Bowman's got this long speed. You can see right here. Just absolutely ridiculous long speed. Timed at a 10.4 in the 100-meter dash. That is legit 4.443 type speed at the next level. And but you'll see here when he does encounter a situation where he needs to, be shifty, make some jukes, make some cuts. He's got moves in his toolbox, which is what's so wonderful about Trevion Henderson. But I don't know. I mean, Henderson does have the long speed. I don't know what's been confirmed in terms of like a track number or anything like that. But Bowman, there is no doubt about it. He has got home run 99-yard speed. Just making defenses look like they're in quicksand. But you'll see here, there are a couple where he does make some moves. He doesn't only just get running in lanes. That's a nice little cutback up inside. He shows some good running instincts. But if he gets a seam, it doesn't really matter the angles. I mean, he's absolute breaking speed. But here we go, making some jukes. Some guys miss, cutting back opposite field, so showing some lateral agility. But I like some of his route running technique, kind of running inside of blockers, looking like he follows his blockers. He doesn't only take it to the outside. He will kind of be, maneuver in short areas. And you saw there a juke at a defender kind of grasping it air, working his way to the outside, not taking a direct angle, not only trying to go outside, cutting back up in, and making two guys miss. So there are a lot of running backs, especially with his speed, who would just keep drifting outside at all costs. But you see here, there are instances where he'll cut upfield. Look at this juke and a stiff arm. But he was doing some footwork there, before the stiff arm. You'll see as he comes out of the backfield, outside, inside, kind of breaking that guy down. Then he stiff arms. So, because that guy was off platform after all the jukes. So getting a couple extra yards there. And then, if there is a seam, like I said, like he's just, I don't know if at the college level it'll be every time, but he's got legitimate long speed, which is great. Here he is on a blocking rep. So I guess that's showing a little bit of a team attitude. Here he is on a screen pass, catching that ball with hands. Looks pretty good there. And weaving through blockers. He does have some instinct there. I really like that. Here we go. Inside, outside. Now we're cutting it up. But then he came back outside. So he's not only going to the sideline every time, which is really something I look for with these very fast running backs, because so many of them really just want to run inside or run outside, at all costs. Here we go with a up the middle seam route. I mean, completely untouched. This is a play I really like, coming back up inside and then muscling his way into the end zone. I love DeMarcus Bowman. I mean, I really do. The transfer to Florida, look at this speed. I mean, just outrageous. Did get caught there. That's surprising. But Florida's got a lot of speed just all over the high school landscape. I don't think his transfer to UF was, look at that though. You really like to see that. I mean, he could have taken this outside right here. He could have taken this outside. He could have absolutely beaten that guy to the outside and scored a touchdown. I am really confident, but He's tagging his lineman here, using that leverage, to easily scoot inside, and then just also, either way, he's getting to the end zone there. And I really like that. There's a lot of speed-based running backs who would definitely just take that outside. So there we have it. That's my top 10 breakout candidates. I think I didn't finish my thought on, his transfer from Clemson. It doesn't seem like it was performance-based. He got in on the field in their first game of the season. I think he, had some carries. I looked at the game log in the second quarter. It's not like he wasn't going to start, over ETN, but it wasn't like he was just woefully buried and not going to get anything. Maybe they told him he was going to redshirt, which would make some sense with ETN, and Lynn J. Dixon is like serviceable. And I could see, Clemson, maybe they broke a promise. Maybe they told him in recruiting that he would, 50-50 with ETN. And then he got to campus and they said, you're going to redshirt because we don't need you. I'm not sure. We don't have any, evidence of that sort of thing that was depth chart or performance based. The story is, his grandfather lived in South Carolina, I think, and he wanted to be close to him so he could watch him play. He then passed away, and Bowman pretty quickly said, I'm out and I want to go back home. Lakeland's only about an hour from Gainesville, so this is not an Eric Gilbert situation where he claims he wants to go home and then goes to Florida, which is, 8 hours from his home. He literally was Bowman at least is literally going home to Gainesville, about 45 minutes out of Lakeland. So that makes perfect sense. That story checks out. If that's the case, he should not be dropping in drafts. I mean, he went to the best, one of the absolute elite schools in the country as a running back, 5-star, top 5 running back in the country last year. I don't know what his ADP was last year in C2C leagues or in Devy leagues for that matter, but people loved him. I loved him. And then now he's going in the 3rd or 4th round, and TreVeyon Henderson's going in the mid to early 2nd round. After the big 2 running backs in 2022, the big 3 or 4 running backs in 2023, Henderson is next in line on most people's board. So he is going in the mid-2nd. You can Bowman a round or 2 later. And to me, they're such similar prospects. You just have kind of that funky transfer stuff with Bowman, but the reason I like his transfer story is that it's not performance based. It's not depth chart based. Although Florida is becoming like the land of misfit 5-stars. I mean, dating back to Trevion Grimes, you've got Justin Shorter, Lorenzo Lingard. You've got Eric Gilbert almost came and then left. You got Bowman. So we're just picking up tons of 5-stars. And honestly, Grimes did okay. He's going to make it to the NFL now. But, Shorter, I think injury just sapped a lot of his power. I don't think Lingard's very good. But Bowman, I do believe, is good. And the difference between Bowman and everybody else on that list that I just mentioned, they had at least 1 or 2 years of not producing at their college they signed with, and then they come to Florida. Bowman is not that. And I think we don't have a lot in the backfield. Dameon Pierce is not super impressive. And then everyone after him is a role player. I would not be surprised at all if Bowman is just the guy. I mean, he's the most explosive guy on our team right now after all these guys who graduated and left for the NFL, including Kyle Pitts. I mean, to me, right now, Bowman is the most dynamic playmaker on the Florida offense. And so it would be silly if they didn't feature him. He can catch the ball. I would not be surprised at all if he's had 50 receptions or something this year. I mean, he should be the engine. He should be the engine of the Florida offense with an unknown quarterback situation and certainly unproven, with like 6 of our top pass catchers moving on. We've got Xavier Henderson, who's a 4-star receiver, and that's kind of it. I don't know what this offense is going to look like, but it would make a really good sense for them to try to get Bowman 20 touches a game. I'm saying that's what I would try to do unless he was just horrible. That's what I would try to do as a coach. I think that's, the best path to getting yards. Give him the ball in space, throw it to him, which would be even better. But he's the most dynamic guy on the Florida offense unless somebody else pops. And so I am super high. I'm probably going to have, tons of Bowman because he's getting drafted. I'm easily, clicking draft next to Bowman's name when I'm getting him in the 3rd, 4th round because most of the sure future studs are gone by then, and you're really kind of looking at a bunch of maybes, a bunch of guys that you're not sure about. And so Bowman's got everything you could ask for except the fact he didn't play as a freshman. And that's about it. So thank you for this, joining me for this breakout sophomore episode. I hope you enjoy it. Click like and subscribe, whether it's a podcast. If you're listening on iTunes, rate this podcast. Give me a little shout out in the comments, please. It's going to help us grow. And then for my folks at Campus to Canton, quick word about that. So campustocanton.com, first website devoted to the deep format of Campus to Canton leagues, but also incredibly useful for deep Devy. And frankly, if you play Dynasty, it is going to be helpful to know what we are saying about these players. So A, you're familiar with the names once the rookie draft comes up, and B, so you can kind of gauge what future draft picks are going to be associated with the classes as they move through. And then you can be a more savvy trader and know what draft picks can I let go and what draft picks do I not want to send away because that class is huge. So if you're listening to this, and even if you played just regular old Dynasty, you still want to know about college classes as deep as you can get. So come over to campustocanton.com. We have a lot of free stuff on there. We do have a subscription plan for some of our content, but I'm telling you, it is so worth it. And a bunch of great guys working through that. So Why Wait Till Sunday is now living under the Campus to Canton umbrella, and we are very excited to be part of that. And so with that, I will not see you next week. I am going on a little vacation with my wife, but I wanted to drop this in for you, and we'll pick it back up after that. Got some more fun things planned. So until next time, have a great week. And